Manual vacuuming is an effective way to keep the pool clean. Not only does it keep the pool in a clean visual state, but it also helps prevent algae and bacteria from forming. The way that the manual vacuum works is it uses the suction of the main pool pump itself, and you go through one of the skimmers and use that suction to clean the pool. Our first step to set up the manual vacuum is to get everything submerged in the water. The vacuum head clicks onto the end of your telescopic pole, and you get this entire hose in the water. Try to get it unraveled as best as possible to prevent any kinking from forming in the vacuum. Once this is unraveled, what you want to do is take this plate and set it over the top of the skimmer. Now what we want to do is we first want to get this entire hose filled with water so that when we put the plate down into the skimmer and get the suction, we're going to continue to pull water and contain the prime on the pump. The easiest way to get the hose filled with water is to place the head of the vacuum over one of the return jets. Now once we have the hose completely submerged with water, what we can do is place this plate inside of the skimmer over the top of the skimmer basket. By doing this, we create a vacuum, and once this vacuum is set up, you want to make sure to keep the head of the vacuum underneath the surface of the water. That will prevent us from pulling air into the vacuum. We're going to retain the prime on the pump that way, and we'll just keep the vacuum in a good state. Now we're vacuuming off of the deep end skimmer right now. To build up a better suction onto our vacuum, what I usually do is shut off the main drain about 2/3 of the way and shut off the shallow skimmer about 2/3 of the way so that that additional suction from the pump will go to our vacuum, making the whole process go a little bit smoother. Now to build up a better suction onto our vacuum, we're going to shut a couple of the inlets off. Since we're vacuuming off of the deep end skimmer, which is this one right in front of the pump, we're going to shut the shallow skimmer off about 2/3 of the way and the main drain off about 2/3 of the way. This way the pump suction will increase onto our vacuum and we'll get a better vacuum setup that way. Aside from keeping the head of the vacuum underneath the surface of the water, what you want to make sure you do is you want to go slow just so you can pick up debris, and you also want to go with a pushing motion instead of a pulling motion. That way you'll get a little leverage into the vacuum and it'll work out a little bit better. When you want to shut the manual vacuum off, the first thing you want to do is leave the vacuum inside of the water. What we want to do is we want to adjust the suction onto our skimmer so that instead of the skimmer having all of the suction, it has none of the suction. And we do that over at the main valves. Now a lot of people with manual vacuum ended up doing it maybe once or twice a month, although you can do it as often as you want to. The disadvantage of doing this type of vacuuming is that it does dirty your filter a little bit quicker. The alternate way to vacuum your pool is to use the Polaris, which is the automatic cleaner for the pool. Come on, I'll show you how to hook that up. The Polaris is your automatic cleaner for the pool. The way this operates is it has its own special connection piece on the pool itself that it clips into, and then you turn on an auxiliary pump, and that's what actually powers the Polaris around the pool. Now the advantage of the Polaris is it's fully automatic. You don't have to worry about sitting out and doing manual vacuuming. You can basically plug it in, turn it on, and let it go. The other advantage is that everything the Polaris collects into a separate bag, which has spring clips that come off and Velcros open, so it's very easy to clean out. You don't have to worry about dirtying your filter out nearly as often. The way you attach the Polaris to the pool to get it to operate is you set the Polaris in the water along with all the hose that the Polaris has. And to connect the Polaris, inside of the connection piece on the wall there are two notches which clip onto either side of this. It's just a little twist and it locks into place. Once we have the Polaris locked into place, all we need to do is turn on that auxiliary pump and the Polaris is going to start running around the pool. And this booster pump, which is operated by a separate switch, is what solely powers the Polaris around the pool. This runs completely independent of the main pool pump. It uses water that circulates through the equipment, but it has its own source of power, and that's what makes the Polaris go around the pool. It's actually controlled by a separate switch, which is usually located right next to the main pool pump switch.